This is Hannibal from thehannibaltv.com, and I am with Dr. Robert Goldman here today, who is the founder of the Arnold Sports Hall of Fame. I'll get him to tell us himself the numerous black belts that he has, and he's also a holder of Guinness Book of World Records, numerous records, and a leader in the anti-aging field.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. The Arnold Sports Festival, as you know, is the largest sports festival in the world. This weekend we're expecting over 22,000 athletes. That's double the size of the Olympic Games. Over 200,000 people, 80 people in from 80 countries, over 70 different sports. It's really a massive, unbelievable event that Jim Larmour and Arnold Schwarzenegger created. Every year for the last 8 years, and this is our 8th year actually, I host the International Sports Hall of Fame, where we pick 5 or 6 of the world's top athletes from all different sports, and we recognize them not only for what they've done as a sports legend, but also how they've given back, what they've done in terms of the charitable works, mentorship of young people. Without that, they're not a candidate.
And you actually won an award last year, I believe, at the 30th anniversary of the Arnold Sports Festival. It was a Lifetime Achievement Award. So let's talk a bit about your sports history. You started training young, and I guess your first records were with push-ups and sit-ups with straight legs, and I guess pull-ups as well.
Well, I started training seriously about age 12, and it was sort of an accident. I was in elementary school. I touched the pull-up bar. I broke the school record the first time I ever touched the pull-up bar. I said, oh, this is kind of interesting. Maybe I sort of should try harder and train.
What was the school record, out of curiosity?
I was like 12 years old. It was like 15 or 20 pull-ups. I did like 25. It was a long time ago. I don't recall exactly. And then I started training with sit-ups, push-ups, those sorts of things. Used to watch LaLanne on TV and work out with him on television. Ended up working for him when I was 17 as a teenager, and then became the poster boy for the LaLanne health clubs in New York City. And then I actually went after his records and broke a good number of LaLanne's records in different types of strength and endurance activities, and also started martial arts around the same time. So now it's going on decades of that type of training. But it's been a really fun ride, but most importantly, the people that you get to meet along the way, the Arnold Schwarzeneggers and the Joe and Ben Weider and Reg Park, who was Arnold.
Sylvester
Stallone. But Arnold is, stands alone.
Mark Wahlberg too.
Oh, yeah, Mark. Mark trains like an animal too. I mean, these are remarkable people who not only as sports legends, movie icons, but also these are serious athletes.
So when you were winning these records and breaking these records when you were young, what were some of your keys to success?
Well, I mean, the thing is, the impossible is never impossible. And the more people tell you it can't be done, then you got to do it. And I think it's just a matter of not giving up and keeping a focus on what your dreams and goals are, despite all the opposition. And all these people, when Sly wanted to do his first movie, they didn't want him to star in it. And he had he almost had to walk away, and they were offering more money. He was sleeping in his car, and he still kept going. Arnold was told, you don't even speak English well. How are you going to be a movie star? Or how are you going to be this or that? And he went on, and he just kept going at it. And you'll find there's a common thread among all these people that they're unstoppable. And it doesn't matter what the opposition, how many people are against them, how many challenges they have, they just work their way through it.
And what got you into the martial arts side of your training?
Well, I grew up in the New York City projects in a pretty bad area, so just for a matter of survival, you had to learn how to defend yourself. But then I learned, the great historical and mentorship aspects of martial arts, and that I found really fascinating. And I had some good instructors over the years, and it's what I liked about the martial arts guys. It's almost like the strongman competition. They're very modest, very understated. You don't know what they're capable of until you actually see it. And that's what I really liked about the martial arts. I'm very heavily involved in that community now.
And I'm not that familiar with the two disciplines where you hold your multiple degree black belts. And could you tell us a little bit about those disciplines?
Well, I mean, I was conventionally trained in Shotokan, which is Japanese karate. But I also trained in weapons and Kung Fu Do, and now I'm learning Wing Chun from Grandmaster Samuel Kwok, who was out of London but trained under Ip Man. In fact, I had a really great experience in Hong Kong just last year. I was with Mai Sifu, who's Grandmaster Kwok, and then Simon Cook, who did that great fight elevator scene in Ip Man 3. I don't know if you ever saw a tremendous scene. And we all visited Ip Man's grave, and then we got to have dinner with the son of Ip Man, the living son of Ip Man, Ip Chun, and then Ip Chun and Mai Sifu sparred. Now, mind you, Ip Chun is 93 years old, and he clocked him good.
Wow.
You know, and it really is. These are remarkable people who, even in their 90s, have these astounding talents.
Do you think you would have possibly had a few MMA fights if that had been around when you were in your younger years?
Well, the MMA fights I had were in the streets, so
yeah.
No, they were not. We actually did have that sort of MMA situation when I used to go and fight in Chinatown. It was not an official situation. I was the only white person in the whole bay. It was all black, Puerto Rican, and Chinese. But we used to do our own version of MMA with that, but it was just among the people that were there. There was no, crowds or betting or awards of any kind. It was just a matter of, who could better this person. So it was like the pre-MMA before MMA existed.
And at the same time you were doing all of this, you're also going to school. I understand you have 3 doctorate type degrees.
Well,
4, I mean.
Well, I'm an MD and a DO. I'm a medical doctor. I'm also an osteopathic physician and surgeon. And then I have 2 PhDs in the disciplines of steroid androgenic biochemistry and the health sciences. So spent many. I didn't actually finish my school training until I was in my mid-30s. So it was a long haul.
And I understand the first book that you did was about the dangerous effects of steroids. Could you tell us a little bit about that book?
Well, I mean, back, I was a very natural athlete during my competitive years. I wouldn't even like taking aspirin. And during the 80s, during the 70s and 80s, steroids were kind of new. A lot of backdoor stuff, and I was seeing the hypodermic needles and all these paraphernalia in the gyms. I go, what's going on here? So I started to explore that area. And found that there was a lot of interesting illicit drug use being done. And there was a doctor by the name of Dr. John Ziegler, who was the American team physician back in the 50s when the Russians came on strong, the Germans came on strong in terms of their teams at the Olympic Games. And he came up with the first methadrostenolone, which was Hannibal, which was the gold standard way back when. And so I actually trained under him, mentored under him. And I became his disciple. In fact, he left me a lot of his research, and I went on. And my book was published just, shortly before he passed away. And that was the first of 50 books that I've written over the years on different topics, but all mostly health-related, no novels or anything.
What do you think about movies like Bigger, Faster, Stronger that downplay the negative side effects a little bit?
Well, I mean, drugs are not bad. Drugs are just not so good when you're using it in the wrong way or using wrong quantities. You can kill yourself with water. You can kill yourself with aspirin. In fact, aspirin would never be approved as a drug today because of all the side effects, abdominal, stomach bleeding, and so on.
Really, could you tell us about those side effects of aspirin? Just out of curiosity?
You take enough, you can kill somebody with enough aspirin. You can kill somebody with enough water, if you just overload them too much.
But if you take aspirin every day, a lot of people do it. Is that a dangerous thing?
No, I mean, you want to take it when you have food in your stomach, and it's just like ibuprofen. People who have fear of, the various clotting factors. In fact, if they think they're going to have a heart attack, they'll put a baby aspirin under their tongue to try and ameliorate things until they can get to the emergency room. The hormone replacement that's utilized today in people as they get older is a very good, valid science, and is helping a lot of people, men and women. Women develop menopause, men develop andropause. So when a guy gets beyond 40, 50 years old, hormone levels are dropping, and he's just not the same person. And when we medicate these people, they can really pop back well.
And what is your opinion on steroid use in bodybuilding? Because now we're seeing some of these professional bodybuilders. They don't look like Arnold. I think Arnold had one of the top physiques ever, probably the best, but now they have these massive bellies. I guess that's from growth hormone use.
Yeah, I mean, it's the massive quantity, I think, that some of the athletes, and it's very dangerous. We've been taking albumin, massive GH, and
insulin.
I mean, this, we've had a few guys die from this situation. So this is not a good situation when bigger is not always better. Again, the drugs are not bad drugs, but when you're using them in non-medical, even like younger people or women in younger ages taking androgens is not a good idea. But when a male is 40, 50, 60 years old and you're doing hormone replacement, that's appropriate medical use, not abuse.
Right. And how did you first become involved with the Arnold Sports Festival? I guess it was originally called the Arnold Classic Weekend.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Arnold met Jim, decades ago, and he came as a competitor. He says, I want to work with you, and we're going to be partners, and they did. And here we are, 30 some odd years later. Jim Larmour has a very unique relationship, almost like a father-son relationship. And Jim is like a father to a lot of us. I mean, he's somebody who mentors. In fact, I had a great conversation with Jim a few years ago. I just saw him earlier today as well in the Larmour suite. But I had a really neat conversation with him several years ago when he just turned 90. I said, because when you have great mentors like this, like an Arnold or Joe and Ben Weider and so on, you want to gauge your own career by what they were doing at that age. So, I was in my early 60s, Jim was now in his 90s, and so I said, what was the greatest, what advice can you give me? What was some of the great highlights of your career? So the greatest time of my life was from age 65 to 90. The last 25 years have been the best of my life. Now that's really profound. Say your life excitement really started when you were 65, which I'm not even 65 yet, so I'm going, wow, I haven't even gotten started yet. So this is really an exciting situation. So it started out just as a bodybuilding show, and then they kept adding more and more and more sports. And now it's evolved into this unbelievable sports weekend that I never miss it. The whole bodybuilding, fitness, martial arts family, we all come out of this.
And what was it like working with Arnold, and what is it like, I should say, because you still work with him?
Well, I mean, Arnold is probably one of the most charismatic humans. Certainly the most charismatic person I've ever met. There's almost a didactic memory for things. He's a historical figure, and I say this a lot even when I introduce him at different events. He's a true historical figure. So even though a lot of people want to get their picture taken with me, when I see him, I always want my picture taken with him, even though I've got hundreds of those. It doesn't matter, because I'm in the presence of a historical figure, and some people don't understand that. I mean, this is a guy who came here, didn't speak the language, not only learned the language, went to school and did all those things, but just became the greatest bodybuilder in the world, the greatest movie star in the world, the governor of California, and he's built the largest sports festivals in the world. And now he's in his 70s, and he doesn't stop. And he's just, it's an honor to be around him, and it's always like exciting to be around him, because he's just unstoppable, and it inspires all of us, and that's why you see what you see here this weekend.
And he still looks in phenomenal shape. I saw him earlier today in this very restaurant, and doesn't show the signs of aging very much.
Well, not only that, he had a close call with the cardiac surgery he had, and but he made a comeback far faster than any of us would have expected, and he's back full steam. And I mean, just film Terminator will be out in November. He's in a class by himself. You have Arnold, and then you got the rest of us.
So how did you come up with the concept of the International Sports Hall of Fame, and how did you go about pitching it to everyone here?
Well, it wasn't really a matter of pitching it. I usually like to just create things and do it. I thought that part of the goal, or part of the responsibility that we all have, Arnold has, I have, Ben and Joe Weider and all these, Jack LaLanne, was to mentor the next generation and to inspire them to be more, to do more. And so I was saying, how can I do this and also honor the legends who were, my inspiration for trying to achieve what I've tried to work on. And so I came up with the concept of an International Sports Hall of Fame, not just in bodybuilding, all sports. So you may have like a Evander Holyfield is a 5-time world boxing champion, a Don the Dragon Wilson who's a 11-time world kickboxing champion, and a Ed Cohn is a 70-time world powerlifting champion, and a Johnny Bench who's one of the greatest baseball players of all time. And you mix all that together, and you try and create the human dynamics of that, and then that inspiration goes out over the airways, and these young kids get to see this and go, wow, I could do this, or I don't want to give up. Probably one of my great moments that in the International Sports Hall of Fame was when we had Arnold Schwarzenegger on stage, Franco Colombo, his training partner,
of course,
and Bruno Sammartino. These three guys had not seen each other over 45 years to put them on the stage together. They had not seen each other in 45 years when they were training in the gym. You imagine the human dynamics, and Triple H is there at the same time, Mark Henry is there at the same time, and so and Randy Couture, and you've got a number of generations all together, and you've got these three legendary icons: Bruno, who filled Madison Square Garden more than anybody else, including Frank Sinatra; Arnold, who's Arnold; Franco, who's one of the world's strongmen and Mr. Olympia. And these three icons seeing each other after 45 years, and to be responsible for making that happen. I mean, and then having all these other guys, like a Triple H and a Mark Henry and a Randy Couture in that same room together. And that's what we try to create. We keep it tight. We only keep a small number of people in the room. So you have 100 members of the international press, and then you got 100 icons in the room. So even the icons don't know who to run to because they're so excited, because it's not one sport, it's all these different sports.
Now you're talking about Bruno Sammartino. He passed away, I believe it was last year or the year before, and he looked to be in great shape. What are your thoughts on his passing?
Well, I mean, Bruno was, first time I met Bruno, I was a kid. I was 17 years old. He was being inducted into the World Bodybuilding Guild Hall of Fame, which I ended up going in a few years later. His class was Jack LaLanne, Bill Pearl, and him. And I'm there as a 18-year-old kid seeing these three guys just starstruck. I mean, it's like, wow. And Bruno, and one of the nicest, most gentle, modest guys you'd ever want to meet. It's a great loss, for all of us with him, but I was so happy that we recognized him, and then just right after that he got recognized by the WWE in a massive ceremony in front of 50,000 people. A very deserving guy, and just a legend.
Would he have been your favorite wrestler that's been inducted so far?
Well, we had Dan Gable, who was my childhood idol when I was training for the Olympic Games in freestyle wrestling. I mean, there's so many great people, but there's so much that goes into that 48 minutes of our ceremony. It takes a whole year to pull all this together, to get these people out here, to make all the arrangements. And we have got great people again this year, and every year we just try and change the mix and the dynamics of who we have.
So what got you into the whole anti-aging thing? I guess this is just all of your training that you've been doing and wanting to live longer and help people live longer.
Well, I mean, sports medicine was really the predecessor for anti-aging. Anti-aging is the next generation of sports medicine. And so, you're enjoying the ride, you want to do it longer. And really, anti-aging medicine is taking the best from all specialties: internal medicine, plastic surgery, endocrinology, and so on, combining it into one force so that you can take every person and enhance their performance and enhance their longevity at a peak level. And so it's just a natural progression. So we started the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, A4M, and I started that organization with Dr. Ronald Klatz, and we built it into the largest anti-aging longevity preventive medicine society in the world, where we have 28,000 members in 120 countries. We hold the largest medical conference and symposiums, publishing of any group on the planet. So we're in our 26th year, actually our 27th year now.
Is it in Canada yet for our Canadian viewers?
Oh yeah, I mean we've held conferences in Canada before.
But the access to some of the medications, I understand it's not quite as available as it is in the U.S.
Well, yes and no. Actually, most people want to buy their meds from Canadian pharmacies because you get much better prices, and whether it be not so much growth hormone, but metformin and thyroid medication and so on. And in some cases, some of the hormone medications people actually purchase. But yes, Canada is a bit behind the scope there.
And for non-medications, what are some general things people can do to age better?
Well, I mean, number one, the easy one is hydration. 2, stay out of the sun. Don't get too much sun exposure. You see these people, you age yourself dramatically with too much sun exposure. I think vitamin supplementation is very important. Exercises.
What are the key vitamins, just to break off onto that, because there's so many supplements out there and companies telling you that these are the best vitamins to take, in your opinion. Right. Like if someone were to take a handful of vitamins that they should definitely take every day,
Well, I'm a big fan of vitamin C. You know, like 1, 2, 3 grams a day. Vitamin D also is a great immune augmenter. Selenium, we used to recommend 200 micrograms per day. Now we do 400 micrograms per day as an anti-cancer. Alpha lipoic acid is a strong antioxidant. You know, a good multi that has maybe some probiotics is also, you know, a good thing to look at. So there are a lot of there's a lot of hype in the field, but there is a lot of good basis for a number of these type of supplements.
And I understand you actually started personal training here in the U.S. Like you started the whole concept and courses everyone had to take to become certified.
Yeah, back in the you know, I worked in the gyms for years, and back in the old days, by old days I mean in the 1980s, there was no such thing as a certified personal trainer. You got no training in the gym. There was no education of any kind. So I launched NASM, the National Academy of Sports Medicine. Back in 1989, we held the first certification for personal fitness trainers. Kind of interesting, in that class, Jim Larmour and Bob Larmour, who run the Arnold Classic, were in that first class. John Abdu invented the Abdur. Tony Little, you know,
oh yes, yeah.
Tony Little. I had all those guys in that first class, believe it or not. And that went on to be and then I also trademarked CPT, Certified Personal Trainer. Within the first year of starting NASM, within 1 year, 270 new groups popped up. So we were the first, but NASM is still the largest out there, and you know, it's necessary and important.
Are you still doing celebrity personal training here and there?
Am I? No,
yeah.
I haven't done that in decades. No.
I'm sure even they probably couldn't afford you these days.
Well, no. Well, most of the things I do are charitable anyway. I don't charge, but no, I don't do any personal training.
Who are some of the other celebrities you've worked with? We've mentioned Stallone and Wahlberg.
Jason Statham is great. I mean, what a phenomenal athlete, great guy, just a lot of fun, great to watch on screen. We had him in the class several years ago. You know, I don't really play too much in the celebrity world. The only premieres I go to are the ones that Arnold has. And you know, so that's that small circle. But I am producing movies now for the martial arts world, and we do enough, and that's good fun. You get to get some of the guys in the movies.
And as far as martial arts go, we are an MMA and wrestling channel. Any fighting advice out there, generic for fighters watching?
Well, number one, try not to get hit in the head too much. All right, because you know, every time you get hit in the head, you're on your way to cognitive deficit, and that stuff is cumulative. And you know, the beta amyloid plaques and the tau proteins, all these things where the brain gets all kind of squiggled up. You gotta be careful on that. So using your head to butt somebody or getting hit in the head is sort of a no-no if you can avoid that. I think you want to be very careful with your joints, because you think you get away with a lot when you're young. Well, that's cumulative too. You're going to start blowing your joints apart, your hips, knees, joints, elbows, hands, wrists, and so on, your neck, your spine. So you can't be too cute with that. Like, you know, I don't throw any high flying kicks anymore. You know, a lot of the MMA, you know, and generally if you know how to fight real good, you don't kick anybody above the knee. You could break their ankle, instep, knee. You don't need to go higher than that. Although some guys will do like a Muay Thai, high knee to the chest or knee to the head to knock somebody out. But it's a dangerous sport. I like it. I'm a big fan of it. I enjoy Andrei Arlovsky when he was UFC world champion. Yeah. I met him when he first came to the U.S. His manager brought him to my place. Wow. Didn't even speak English back then. He was a 6'5" monster walking through the door, speaks no English. We became good friends over the years. One of my docs has taken care of him for years, but also a great guy. But you got to be careful, because the body you got today, you're going to have to live with for the rest of your life.
And on that subject, is there any weightlifting exercises in the gym that as people get older, they should stay away from? Because I personally find the bench press, when I start to go heavy these days, my joints feel it with barbell bench press, that is.
It's all biomechanics, and you must pay attention. You must be respectful of your biomechanics, and you're going to have to change. And a lot of times what you may want to do is switch to dumbbells, and heavier is not better. You know, I used to lift some very heavy weights. I used to max out a lot of the machines. I don't do that anymore. It's not a good idea. You know, you can really hurt yourself, and then you get an acute injury. A new injury becomes a chronic injury, and then you're stuck to it, and then surgery and so on. You don't want that happening.
So squats too, is that something that you would suggest that people avoid or go lighter on as they get older?
as you get older, good biomechanics, lighter is better, do higher reps with proper form, pay attention to biomechanics, that's critical.
And what can we expect for this year's International Hall of Fame ceremony tomorrow? I'm looking forward to covering it for the first time. Do you want to give fans a preview of what they can expect?
Well, you're going to see some truly remarkable people. You got Tim Kennedy, who is an MMA champion, who was actually in the military. He is flown in, he was on special assignment in Africa. He has not taken a normal shower until today. He flew in from assignment all the way in Africa, where he's not seen his little child and his wife in months, and he just got in. He's going to be here for that. We have we have Michael Buffer, Let's Get Ready to Rumble. You know, is one of the most famous announcers in the world, which is kind of a derivation from our normal people, but he's been so involved in the.
And his brother is Bruce Buffer.
And Bruce Buffer in the boxing. Yeah, we have David Goggins, who's like the ultra marathon, unbelievable athlete. You know, just phenomenal. And you got Benny the Jet, who is, you know, Benny the Jet was a multi-world champion, 5-time world champion, like 59-0. And Benny I know from the martial arts world, and just a great guy and a truly remarkable athlete, and a great teacher and mentor. So we've got a pretty cool class of 5. And every year we try to mix these things up a bit to make it more interesting for people.
And obviously you're probably against supplementation with underground drugs. Obviously you do think that it can be beneficial with medically pharmaceutical drugs in later years. But what supplements over the counter, or what foods do you suggest that top athletes eat if they're going to stay away from that kind of stuff to stay in the top of their game?
Well, you want to try clean sources. You know, there's a lot of genetically modified foods now which are not good. So the more healthy, natural foods without all the pesticides, GMOs, the better. You got to have extra protein. So I'm a fan of protein drinks. I have them myself. You know, so I think you're going to need that extra protein if you train harder. And you just want to be cognizant that this is the body you're going to be stuck with. So you don't look for the quick win. Look for the reason I can still train now. I have no pain. I can still lift, do all the things I want to do, because I knew to pay attention to the aches and the pains, or that different type of feeling you'll have when you're tearing something versus just tearing down the muscle a bit so it'll grow back stronger.
And what's your opinion on intermittent fasting? That seems to be the big thing nowadays.
Well, it's not a big thing for me because I've been doing it for years. I don't eat breakfast. I usually, after I have dinner the night before, I usually don't eat until my last meal was last night. And I'll eat sometime later today. Intermittent fasting, there's some interesting science and some of the fasting thing. But for an athlete, you know, these kids are trying to grow. So, you know, I wouldn't really starve them at this point. I think it's more for the oldsters.
So does that include you won't have coffee, you won't have any kind of liquid that's going to activate your liver? Or do you have coffee and vitamins? And that
I'm a bad example for that because I've never had a cup of coffee in my life. Not for any reason other than to me it just looks like black dirty water. I don't want to. What do I want to drink it for? You know, I'm just never. When I see the cafe latte schmate stuff that people are spending all kinds of money and drinking this sugar-filled, cream-filled stuff, makes no sense to me. Not that I think it's bad, or although I think it's high calorie. You know, coffee is a good diuretic for people, and they like the little boosts they're going to get from the caffeine. I've never really personally been a fan of coffee, tea. Doesn't mean it's bad. Just my personal preference has never been there.
So it's water for you the whole time?
Yeah, I like soda water actually, and I like carbonated water and steam distilled water. I don't drink any soda or the high sugar type of.
No drinks. Alcohol either, I assume.
Very rare. I mean, in a social arena maybe, but rare, not often.
And to close this off, do you have a good Arnold story you could tell us that people might not be aware of?
There are quite a few Arnold stories. I'm just trying to think. When he was competing, he used to do some pretty neat stuff where he would, like take a guy's T-shirt, and it was his favorite, like Mike Katz is his favorite T-shirt, and he would hide it, and then it would really throw the person off. He's very good at doing just one tiny thing to throw somebody completely off. I remember when I was training really hard. This is when we were on the President's Council on Sport, which I'm on under the new administration. This is back in the 90s. I was training pretty hard. But Arnold comes on, he grabs my side on my waist and gives it a pinch. He goes, "Oh, you're getting fat, huh?" And he just knows how to completely throw you off in a second. I mean, he'll go in a room and he will analyze people within seconds, and he'll know just what to do to kind of And he did this in his competition where he would say something or do something that would take his competition and throw him off kilter. He's brilliant, no two ways about it.
Speaking of the President's Council for Sports, could you tell us exactly what your role was in that? That's a pretty big deal.
Well, you have council advisors, and back under the old man Bush and when Arnold was chairman, we helped to develop the different programs and fitness programs for the youth. Now under the administration here in the U.S., we're doing the same. We have Herschel Walker, big football legend, Mario Rivera, Johnny Damon, are both Yankee legends. So we've got some great people on the council, and so it's great to be with these people working for the youth of America.
And where can people follow you on social media if they want to reach out to you?
Just under my name, or I have a website, drbobgoldman.com, which has the different events I go to, or on Facebook under Robert Goldman. But I'm not in any commercial type area. I just do this to share the events in the martial arts and the bodybuilding community with no commercial aspect whatsoever, just really to share knowledge and inspiration.
Are you based here in Columbus? Or?
No, I'm not. I live in Florida, Chicago, Montana, and Las Vegas.
Oh wow, why Montana?
I like wild animals, and I like land and mountains and trees.
Wow. So I guess you're not going there in the winter months then?
I generally don't. I have, but when it's 2 to 3 feet of snow, no.
And finally, best overall health advice for people out there watching?
Simplest one: hydration is key. I mean, a lot of people, they train and they put themselves at risk and get their electrolyte imbalance because they don't have enough water. And I suggest overhydrate all the time.
All right, well, it's been an honor talking to you, and best of luck with the awards tomorrow.
Thanks so much. We're going to enjoy it.